Hi everybody, I'm Bill Sanders and this is Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. Today what I want to do is to take a look at a number of watches that each has a characteristic that you might find interesting. I think, or I'll even be preachy about it. I think you should find interesting in a watch as part of a watch collection. Now I have a whole bunch of different ones. And ones that I think have something to offer that will make the watch unique in its own way. Anyway, let's get started. The first one is one I've talked about before. It's called the Tissot Heritage Petite Seconde. Now, the thing about this watch, first of all, the price, the best price I could find was $47 at a place called Bulgari. By the way, I don't recommend or not recommend the place unless I've done business with them. I haven't done business with Bulgari. I know nothing about them, but I found out that was where they had the price for this watch. The prices range between about 6,000 and even up to around 9,000. So if you're interested in this watch, shop around. Okay, what about this watch? It has the thing about this watch that I like is that it has a caliber Unitas ETA 6498-1, hand wound, 18,000 semi-oscillations per hour. Now, why do I like this watch? If you flip it over and you look at the back, and you can see the movement. Now, in the movement, there's this little opening, and they have a thing going out that's called the balance cock, because it holds the balance wheel. And on the balance wheel, you'll see this little pointy thing. And the pointy thing will make the watch go faster or slower. It's called the regulator. And so you can use something like a toothpick. The reason I'd recommend a toothpick for doing adjustments on this is that they're made of wood, okay? And so you're not going to have any problem with magnetizing something. And I made a watch for my grandson using a very similar movement to this, and I was surprised how accurate I could, by making that kind of adjustment, by just pushing the arrow pointer. If it was going too fast, you slow it down. If it was going too slow, you speed it up. And you do that a while. Now, you need either a lot of time, because you have to wait. You set it and then wait 24 hours, then check it again. Either that or get a time grapher. But this is just a nice, simple watch with a really interesting movement in it. The other thing is that it runs at 18,000 semi-oscillations per hour. Now, I, for one, prefer the lower frequency rates. All of the top watchmakers do too, for some reason. Now, I'm doing it because they're doing it, not because I'm so smart. All right, so the Tissot Heritage Petite Seconde has an interesting feature that you use one watch in your collection. You say, hey, I can do this with it. Okay, now, the next watch is another one. This one, by the way, I don't think was too popular among Rolex fans. But it's one of the few Rolexes I really like. And this is a Rolex Air King 116900, and that's because it has a Faraday cage. A Faraday cage is a type of, it's soft iron enclosure that they put around the movement to reduce magnetism. So your movement doesn't get magnetized, and if it does get magnetized, three things can happen. It can make your watch run faster, can make it run slower, or can stop it altogether with really heavy magnetization. The watch, that in the name of the caliber for it, is 3131. Now, they had it originally in their, what they call the Milgauss, and the Milgauss was for 1,000 Gauss, which was the number that you would have to prevent magnetization. Now today, they stuck in silicon, which is totally non-magnetizing, and that's something like 15,000 Gauss, but what fun is that? Anyway, so the other thing I like about this is the Bloodhound dial. Now, the story behind the Bloodhound dial, there are these guys that had a ground racer, and I don't know, they're English, and they wanted to break a speed record with this thing that looked like a rocket ship that with wheels on it, and it was called the Bloodhound. I'm not quite sure where they got the name, but there was just some English racing or speed enthusiasts, really. So they made this thing, and they either asked Rolex or Rolex wanted to sponsor them for one reason or the other. And so they made the dials on the instrument panel. And you can see that they're at the bottom down there. And the Rolex Air King was to be their air sports watch, their pilot's watch. And so they just said, well, you know, this is the Bloodhound is I don't know how they figured that had something to do with the air, other than the fact that I think they had a jet engine in it. But I really have always liked the dial. Now, I know the dial wasn't as popular with a lot of Rolex fans. In fact, this watch wasn't, but I've always thought, what are they missing? They're missing what's on the inside. Now, these are selling right now for around $7,000. Rolex prices went way up after the pandemic, including this one. I think originally, before the pandemic, they were listing for around $4,000 or $5,000, I think. Anyway, they're around 7,000, high sixes or low 7,000. It would be a watch with a Faraday cage, which I thought would be a cool thing in a collection. All right, this next one is the Tutima Patria GMT. Okay, now this one is for a GMT, which is a dual time zone. This one's very simple. It has, at 6 o'clock, there's a second time zone, and you set it for whatever other time you want, and the minute hand will be the same in these two different time zones, with a few exceptions, India being a major one. Anyway, the caliber is a Tutima 619, which is an in-house manual winding 21,600 semi-oscillations per hour, which is 3 hertz. Again, one of the lower ones. The most common one's about 4 hertz. But I like the ones either 3 hertz or 2.5 hertz. This one it's an example of your really top German watches. The thing about Tutima, though, is that I don't think they're recognized for as good as they really are. And I think these watches, I think the list price on these is around 10,000. But Tutima is one thing for, I think, a watch that you'd have a really good German watch, and on top of that, you'd have a dual time zone. A GMT is for Greenwich Mean Time. It's also referred to as UTC. Pilots refer to it as Zulu time. So anyway, and you flip it over on the back, you can see it. They have what's called a 3/4 plate on it, which is a very much of a German tradition, and a 3/4 plate, and then you can see not only can you see it, if you're a watchmaker, you can work on it where it needs some adjustment. And usually where you need some adjustment is in the balance wheel. One of the guys, after the reunification of Germany that I met, name was Rolf Lang. And Rolf Lang is tip-top watchmaker, and he was one of the guys, I believe, at Tutima. He worked with Tutima, he worked with Allanga and some other companies, but I think he trained the watchmakers at Tutima. And it's one of those watch companies I think that a lot of people don't think about when they're thinking about a really high quality German watch. Usually when you think of high quality German watch, you're thinking of Maurice Grossmann, or you're thinking of Kadoki as an independent, or Langenheim, or Lange. But I think Tutima is one of those tip-top ones under the radar that you might be interested in, and dual time zone. Okay, moving right along. Another type of watch that I think would be cool in a collection is a regulator. And a regulator is a watch where all of the, I guess you'd call it the time indicators, the hour, the minute, and the seconds, are all on different shafts. They have instead of having the minute hand and the hour hand on a single shaft, or even all three of them with center seconds, these are put on 3 different levels. The other thing about this is that it's called, and I'm not going to try to mess up the French, but it's the regulator Louis Erard, and then it has X Vianney Halter. Well, who's Vianney Halter? It's one of the top watchmakers around. And it's nice to have a watch by a very top-rated watchmaker. This is a watch so that some of the style, Vianney's, his style of watchmaking and the way that his watches look like, you can see very much in this. But what you don't have is the Vianney Halter movement. Instead, they have a Salida SW 266-1, which was set up so you have 3 shafts that you can put the hour hand, the minute hand, and the second hand on. And even in watchmaking school, I've seen some projects that students do, and what they'll do is they'll take a movement, and they have where you have the hour and the minute in the center with an eccentric or a small seconds down at 6 o'clock, and they'll take the hour hand and move it up to 12 o'clock. Well, that's probably done with this one. And the SW 266 is a movement that was adjusted probably from one of their other base movements on this. Now, this is an automatic, and it's really a neat watch. Now, the price, $4,800, is probably pretty close to whatever they had for the list price. I don't know what that was, but this would be killing 2 birds with one stone. On the one hand, you'd have a regulator. Again, it's an interesting watch in a collection, but even more interesting is that Vianney Halter was involved in the design of it. One of the things that especially Vianney Halter has these hobnailed crowns for you can get a good grip on it that way. A place called shopcollectivehorology.com. This is a place in Ventura County, California, which was just south of where I lived, up in Santa Barbara. Sort of between Santa Barbara and LA, you have Ventura. And then on the outskirts of Ventura, sort of up toward the foothills, you have a little town called Ojai. And I think this is where these guys are located. Sort of an interesting place. Again, I've never done business with them. I just found it there, $4,800. Okay, now this next one is, I think it's for any collector, it'd be a fun thing to have a retrograde. And Maurice Lacroix, Maurice Lacroix Masterpiece. They have Masterpiece. They have a lot of watches called the Masterpiece. I have one, and it's nothing like this. But the thing about this is a calendar retrograde. And ever since some years ago, I met a really top watchmaker who had been one of the judges of the Grand Prix. Told me, he said, Maurice Lacroix makes really excellent watches. They didn't for a long time make their own movement. This one, though, the ML 190, ML for Maurice Lacroix, automatic, apparently they did, as an in-house movement. 18,000 oscillations per hour, kind I like, are 2.5 hertz, 52-hour power reserve. Now the retrograde, they have double retrogrades really. The power reserve indicator up between, sort of has an arc from 1 over to 3 o'clock, and then they have another one from about 11 to 9. The one from 11 to 9, that retrograde is a 31-day calendar, and then the other one they have is is for a power reserve indicator. So now the price on this I found was $17.44, under $2,000. I found that at Chrono 24. Anyhow, that's another thing. So you have one with a Faraday cage. You have another one that you can adjust. You have another one that you can that you have a not a regulator, but a regulator style. Okay, it's the fifth one. Now you could have a retrograde. Now, this one, the Bulgari diagono calibre 303 is an interesting one for a couple of reasons. First of all, if you like chronograph, this has got a nice chronograph. But the movement, I think, is one of the most interesting aspects of this watch. It's called the caliber BVL 303, but it's based on a Frederick Piguet caliber 1185. It's automatic, 3 hertz, 21,600 semi-oscillations per hour, 45-hour power reserve. Now, the prices of these are all over the place, but they are much lower, I think, than you're going to expect. This is a watch that there are a lot of different little variations to the way it looks, and this can affect it. But this is how it's described. And this is based on a Frederick Piguet 1185, not something else. Integrated chronograph with column wheel mechanism, manufactured movement. By that means it was manufactured at the Bulgari factory, I guess. With automatic winding date, composed of 303 elements. That's where they get the reference number on the movement. 42 millimeters steel case with 18 karat white gold bezel. On this particular one, a lot of them don't have the white gold, and they cost a lot less. Anti-reflective sapphire, transparent back case, 3 layers dial with sateen, so that's sun, something about the sun. I wish I could tell you the truth on that one. Vertical treatments, hand applied faceted indexes, in-house manufactured steel bracelet. Take a look at this watch. See if you can find one. And you're going to find you can have a watch by one of the really famous movement makers, Frederick Piguet. And then Bulgari has invested heavily, and also they're owned by LVMH, who is also heavily invested in horology. Now this last one is another German watch, Nomos Glashütte Club Sport Neomatic World Timer. Now, World Timer, we talked about a GMT with Greenwich Mean Time, which is simply a dual time zone. What this has, you have it set so you can, all around the world, they indicate different places or different time zones. There are 24 different time zones, and there's different places that are referenced with it. And you can set the second time zone so that at a glance, like right now, it's you can see at the top it has LON is for London is underlined in red, which is your GMT. And so here is showing 10 o'clock. Let's say maybe where you are it's 10 o'clock. And then you can also see at the subdial at 3 o'clock, over by the 3 o'clock. So you have these, this is for London, and then you have a number below that, and so you can tell just about any place in the world what the time is by looking at your watch. The other thing about this has got a movement called the DW3203, automatic 3 hertz, 42-hour reserve. But the other thing about this watch, the Club Sport Neomatic World Timer, is on the bottom there. You can see all of these different color combinations. And you get all these really, if you like, different colors and that. They also have one that looks very plain. 4720. Now that's the list price. Look around, used price, you'll probably get a better deal. But anyway, what this whole video is about is really what, if you're going to have a collection, you want to have some different kinds of things that your watches do. Maybe you want them all the same, that's up to you, but what I want to do in this video is take a look at some options. Let me know what you think. I really value your comments, and this is an opportunity to subscribe if you like. And until next time, this is Bill Sanders for Watch Art Side, the art and science of watch collection.